Today we're going to compare the iPhone 11 versus the Oppo Reno Ace, and the Oppo does have a lot more cameras on the back, whereas the iPhone is only 2, but it can record 4K across all cameras, 4K 60, whereas on the Oppo Reno Ace it's only up to 4K. It can do 4K 60 on the back, but on the front is only up to 1080. One thing I am excited about shooting on the Oppo Reno Ace is that the 48 megapixel camera, so we're also going to test that out as well. So this is the low light test of the front facing camera, and I'm nowhere special, just in the city with a bunch of street lights. So yeah, it's really cold right now. Let's just move on to the next section. Starting off with my portrait mode experience, I gotta say they're both really similar. So it will tell you that the object's too far away or too close, or more light needs to be required. In terms of background blur, the iPhone does have a denser look, so I guess if you want more blur, definitely the iPhone will do the better job, but there are times where they both look really similar. When you're taking pictures of your food or something in your hands like a drink, the iPhone will most likely tell you that the object's too close, so back off, but the Oppo is more lenient, so you can actually get closer to your subject. Now in terms of the front-facing camera, the HDR does a better job on iPhone, and the skin tone is also better as well. You can tell it's more fleshed out, whereas on an Oppo, my skin looks flat. In terms of everyday use, switching between the cameras or the lenses, the colors on the iPhone is more consistent. And as we zoom in, it's obvious that the Oppo does win because it has a telephoto lens, so objects do, or the pictures do, appear sharper and cleaner. Now for the colors on the Oppo, I really like it because I feel like it's really consistent in terms of all the cameras that I've used or all the phone cameras I've used during the past. One thing I wish I would change is the step counts throughout the different focal lengths. So it goes from 1x to 2x right now. I just wish to change the 2x to the 3x. And in terms of the Oppo camera UI, I would say it's really enjoyable to use, really easy and user-friendly. Another weak point for me on the Oppo Reno Ace is the ultra-wide angle lens. When I'm switching between that lens to the main camera, the quality jump is so huge that I feel like I don't even want to go back to using the ultra-wide angle lens, so it's kind of discouraging. For the 48 megapixel camera mode, I feel like it doesn't really enhance my camera experience at all. And it doesn't let me zoom in, so I have to work with what's given to me. And looking at these pictures side by side with the iPhone, the quality isn't much of a difference. I feel like in terms of just everyday use or showing it to your friend, you won't notice a huge difference. And the only time where you can actually see the difference is when you're zooming in. And right now what you're seeing is up to 600 times. So yes, there is more detail. You can actually see the threads from the jacket. So if you are a hardcore photographer or just need to do prints, then maybe this will benefit you, but for the casual everyday person, I just don't feel like it will really enhance your camera experience. And the Oppo Reno Ace does have macro mode, so if you need it, you have the option to use it. Now for low light, I would advise not to use the ultra wide mode just because it doesn't look as good. But I am impressed on how good the color accuracy is on the Oppo Reno Ace. So from daytime to nighttime, they look really good. The only time it looks a bit weird or the colors look a bit weird is from changing between the ultra wide to the main lens. But other than that, most of the time, the color is really natural and neutral. One thing I do notice is that when I'm taking telephoto pictures, I don't think the image stabilization really works as well because it's really cold out, it's nighttime, my hands are shaking, so I notice that the pictures aren't as sharp as the iPhones. Now when we move to dark areas where we need to use night mode, I think this is where the iPhone wins for me. You can see a difference in both night modes, but in just regular picture taking for the Oppo Reno Ace, it feels like the quality doesn't look that good at all. And for the night mode, it does shift a bit to the greener side. It's not as bad as the Huawei phones, but I do notice that green. Now moving on to video for stabilization, for the main camera, the iPhone does win. For the Oppo, I am seeing a bit more bounce each time I'm taking a step. And for the colors, I feel like the Oppo is the winner here because it looks more natural to the eye. And for the iPhone, I just feel like it's really pushing the blue too much. Now moving on to the ultra wide angle lens, I'm not a fan of the Oppo. 1, the color feels way off. And 2, it's only up to 1080p, and if you go back to your main camera and shoot, it's gonna stay at 1080, so you would have to manually go back to the settings menu and switch to 4K. But I will say the stabilization on the ultra wide angle lens is better than the iPhones. For 4K 60, I am surprised that stabilization do work on the Oppo because not a lot of phones actually have this, especially being a cheaper phone. Now it is a pain to edit iPhone's 4K 60 because of the new codec, so sorry if it's a bit glitchy, but my opinion on the 4K 60 is pretty much the same as the 4K 30. Now for low light, the first thing I see is the micro jitters on the Oppo Reno Ace. And that's the biggest con I see on a lot of Android phones. So for nighttime videography, I always lean to grab the iPhone just because of this example. But for HDR, I would say the iPhone does a bit better. Now for the Oppo Reno Ace, it's actually not that bad. It's probably one of the better ones. When we actually look at buildings or stores inside, usually it's blown out on a lot of Androids. But for the Oppo, overall, I am impressed on how well it's containing its highlights during nighttime. Now for ultra wide angle lens, it is pretty obvious that the quality is not that good, and the only time I would consider using it is when I'm in the city where there's a lot of street lights, building lights, and car lights. So overall, I find that the Oppo Reno Ace is a really good camera phone, especially for the price. You get a telephoto lens, and the best thing for me is the consistency of how neutral the colors are when I'm taking all these pictures. There are a few cons here and there, but I feel like the overall value you're getting really outweighs them. So let me know what you guys think. Follow me on Instagram, please give a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.